Captain Jack Reed stood at the viewing window of the human ship Hope watching as the alien planet Vexor grew larger. Its purple oceans and green landmasses looked almost like Earth, if Earth had 3 small moons and rings of dust that glowed at night. "Captain Reed, we will land in 20 minutes, said the ship's computer. Jack nodded. His stomach felt tight. He was the first human to visit the Vex Confederacy, an alliance of aliens that ruled 17 star systems. Earth had only started traveling to the stars 30 years ago. The Vex had been doing it for thousands of years. "Remember your training," Jack told himself, straightening his blue uniform with gold trim. The medal on his chest, for bravery in the Mars colony crisis, caught the light. At 45, Jack had gray hair at his temples, but still stood tall and strong. He had fought in Earth's last war. Now he would be its first voice of peace to the stars. The ship landed with a soft bump on the alien landing pad. Through the window, Jack saw tall, thin aliens with pale blue skin waiting in a line. They wore flowing robes with strange patterns that seemed to move in the light. "Good luck, Captain," said the pilot. "We'll be here if you need us." Jack walked down the ramp into the warm air of Vexor. The gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth's, making each step feel bouncy. The tallest Vex stepped forward. "I am High Minister Locke. Welcome to Vexor, Captain Reed of Earth." His voice sounded like bells, and his 4 eyes blinked in different patterns. "Thank you for welcoming humans to your world," Jack said, bowing slightly as he had been told to do. Over the next 3 months, Jack attended many meetings with the Vex High Council. They discussed trade, sharing of technology, and the rules of space travel near each other's worlds. The talks seemed to go well. The Vex were polite, if a bit cold. Jack lived in a tall tower in the Vex capital city. From his window, he could see ships coming and going, the busy streets full of blue-skinned Vex, and the strange animals that flew through the purple sky. One night, Jack couldn't sleep. He decided to take a walk through a part of the city he hadn't seen before. His guards didn't like it, but they followed him anyway. In a dark area away from the main streets, Jack saw something that made him stop. A group of aliens that weren't Vex were loading heavy boxes onto ships. They moved slowly with their heads down. Some had marks on their backs. A Vex with a stick shouted at them. "Who are those aliens?" Jack asked his guard. The guard looked uncomfortable. "They are workers." But Jack knew what he was seeing. Those aren't workers. They're slaves. The next day, Jack went to the High Council meeting with anger in his heart. When it was his turn to speak, he stood up straight. "I have seen how you treat other species," he said, his voice firm. "Earth will not make agreements with slavers." The room went completely quiet. High Minister Locke's 4 eyes all focused on Jack. "You misunderstand our ways, Captain Reed," Locke said softly. "Lesser species need guidance. They serve a purpose in our society. Slavery is wrong no matter what you call it," Jack said. "I will report this to Earth. All talks are suspended until this matter is resolved." As Jack left the room, he didn't see the look that passed between Locke and the other council members. He didn't know that they had already decided his fate. That night, as Jack sent his report to Earth, the Vex began to plot. The human ambassador had seen too much. He could not be allowed to leave Vexor alive. Jack woke to loud banging on his door. Before he could get out of bed, 6 Vex guards burst into his room, their weapons pointed at him. "Captain Jack Reed, you are under arrest," said the lead guard, his blue skin dark with anger. "What? Why?" Jack asked, raising his hand slowly. "For the murder of Holy Speaker Wren, the most respected religious leader of the Vex people." Jack's mouth fell open. "That's impossible. I've been in my quarters all night." The guards put metal cuffs on his wrists that glowed with strange energy. They took him through the streets as Vex citizens watched. Many shouted angry words at him. Some threw things. In a cold cell deep under the city, Jack sat on a hard bench. His mind raced. He had never met this holy speaker Ren. Someone was setting him up. "I need to contact Earth," he told a guard. "I have the right to speak to my people." "All communication with Earth has been blocked," the guard said. "The trial will begin tomorrow." Jack tried to stay calm. "What trial? I haven't even seen any evidence." The guard just walked away. That night, Jack managed to activate his hidden emergency device. It was built into a tooth in the back of his mouth. He pressed his tongue against it 3 times. It would send a distress signal and record everything he said. "This is Captain Jack Reed," he whispered. "I'm being framed for a murder I didn't commit. The Vex are keeping me from contacting Earth. They're slavers, and they don't want me to tell anyone." The next day, Jack was taken to a large round room. Hundreds of Vex sat in seats that rose up like a bowl. In the center was a small platform where Jack was made to stand. Above him, the High Council members looked down from their tall chairs. "The trial of the human Jack Reed begins now," announced High Minister Locke. "The evidence will be shown." On large screens around the room, a video played. It showed someone who looked like Jack entering a building, then leaving quickly later. The face was blurry, but the blue uniform was the same as Jack's. "That's not me," Jack shouted. "Look at the height. That person is too tall." A Vex witness came forward. "I saw the human near Holy Speaker Ren's home that night." "That's a lie," Jack said. "I demand to see real evidence. I demand to speak with Earth." But more witnesses came, all saying they saw Jack near the murder. Then they showed the body of Holy Speaker Ren, a small, elderly Vex with white markings on his blue skin. He had been killed with a human energy weapon. "My weapon has been in the locked case in my room since I arrived," Jack argued. "Check it." "We did," said Locke. "It was fired recently and had the Holy Speaker's blood on it." Jack realized with horror that they had planned everything perfectly. No one was listening to him. The Vex in the audience were getting angrier, shouting for punishment. After only 3 hours, the council members spoke quietly among themselves. Then Locke stood. "Jack Reed of Earth, you have been found guilty of the murder of Holy Speaker Ren. The punishment is death, to be carried out in 3 days at the public square." As guards took him away, Jack activated his emergency device again. "They've sentenced me to death for something I didn't do," he whispered. "Tell Earth what happened here. Tell them the truth." In his cell, Jack looked out a small window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. Would they learn what happened to him before it was too late? For 3 days, Jack sat in his cell. The guards gave him little food or water. When he tried to speak, they ignored him. Once, he heard his ship's pilot outside, demanding to see him. The guards turned her away. On the morning of the 3rd day, 2 tall guards came for him. "It is time," one said. They gave him clean clothes, his Earth uniform. Jack put it on slowly, feeling the familiar fabric one last time. When they weren't looking, he pressed his emergency device again. "This will be my last message," he whispered. "Remember me. Remember what they did." The guards led him through long hallways and upstairs until they reached the central plaza of the city. A huge crowd of Vex had gathered. They made angry noises when they saw Jack. In the center of the plaza was a tall metal post with restraints. High Minister Locke stood on a platform nearby. "Today is our day of justice," he announced to the crowd. "The human who killed our beloved Holy Speaker will pay for his crime." The guards walked Jack to the post and locked his arms and legs into the restraints. He held his head high, looking at the purple sky of Vexor. It would be the last sky he ever saw. "Captain Jack Reed of Earth," Locke said, his voice echoing across the plaza. "Have you any final words?" Jack looked out at the sea of blue faces. Some were angry, but others seemed confused or sad. He realized not all Vex believed he was guilty. "I am innocent," Jack said loudly. "One day, you will learn the truth. And one day, Earth will know what happened here." Locke's 4 eyes narrowed. "Your lies end today. Bring the execution device." A Vex in red robes approached with a strange silver object shaped like a star. When he pressed a button, points of light appeared at each tip. As the executioner came closer, Jack felt a strange calm. He had done his duty. He had discovered the Vex's dark secret. If his messages reached Earth, his death would have meaning. Just as the executioner raised the device, Jack pressed his tongue hard against his emergency transmitter one final time. He didn't speak, but the device would capture everything. The silver star touched Jack's chest. A flash of white light spread through his body. For 1 second, there was terrible pain. Then nothing. Captain Jack Reed of Earth was dead. The crowd was silent for a moment, then began to cheer. High Minister Locke raised his hands, enjoying the sound. "Let this be a lesson," he called out. "This is what happens to those who threaten our way of life." What the Vex didn't know was that Jack's last transmission had slipped through their communication block. Their system had a small flaw, a gap that opened for just 3 seconds every day. By chance, Jack's final message had found that gap. Far away, at a small human outpost on the edge of Vex space, a communication officer named Lisa jumped up from her seat. "Sir," she called to her commander, "I just received an emergency signal from Captain Reed." The commander rushed over. "Play it," he ordered. They listened to all of Jack's messages, one after another. The arrest, the fake trial, his final moments. The commander's face grew hard. "Send this to Earth immediately. Highest priority." "What will they do, sir?" Lisa asked, her eyes wide. "What will Earth do?" The commander looked out at the stars. "They'll come for him, and God help the Vex when they do." In the silence of space, the message raced toward Earth, carrying the truth about what had happened to Captain Jack Reed. The message from the outpost reached Earth in 6 hours. It went straight to the United Earth Council, where leaders from all nations sat in a large round room, with a blue Earth symbol on the floor. Admiral Tom Wilson stood before them, his face grim. At 60 years old, he had white hair and many medals on his uniform. He had been Jack's teacher and friend for 20 years. "Play the message," he ordered. The room fell silent as they heard Jack's voice. They watched recordings of his trial and execution, captured by his hidden device. When it ended, many council members had tears in their eyes. Others looked angry. "The Vex murdered our ambassador," said the council president, a tall woman named Maria. "This cannot stand." Admiral Wilson stepped forward. "There's something you need to know. The Vex think we are weak because we only recently reached the stars. They don't know our true strength." He pressed a button, and a hidden door opened in the wall. A group of military officers walked in, carrying folders with red stamps that said, "Top Secret." "After our last World War, when Earth finally united, we decided never to be helpless again," Wilson explained. "For 60 years, we have been building in secret." The officers handed out the folders. Inside were pictures of massive ships, bigger than cities, hidden in a pocket of folded space near Jupiter. "Project Aegis," Wilson said. 500,000 dreadnoughts, each powerful enough to destroy a moon. We built them as insurance, hoping never to use them." The council members looked shocked. Normal citizens of Earth had no idea these ships existed. "The Vex have 17 planets and 300 warships," said one council member. "Are you suggesting we go to war?" Wilson's eyes were hard. "They already started the war when they executed Jack Reed. I'm suggesting we finish it." The council voted. The decision was unanimous. Earth would respond. In a hidden base near Jupiter, thousands of crew members boarded the massive dreadnoughts. Each ship was 5 miles long, with weapons that could crack a planet. At the center of the fleet was the flagship Justice Asterisk, commanded by Admiral Wilson himself. Standing on the bridge, Wilson looked at a picture of Jack. They had served together in the Mars colony crisis, saving thousands of lives. "We're ready, sir," said his second-in-command, Captain Mary Jones. Wilson nodded. Open the fold space portal. Set course for Vexor. Travel time. 3 standard months, sir. Too long, Wilson frowned. Use the quantum drives. Captain Jones looked surprised. Sir, those have never been tested at full fleet scale. Jack doesn't have 3 months, Wilson said firmly. Activate quantum drives. Throughout the fleet, engineers powered up the experimental engines. Space folded around the massive ships, bending the rules of physics. In a flash of blue light, all 500,000 dreadnoughts vanished from our solar system. They reappeared just 7 days later at the edge of the Vex home system. On Vexar, life had returned to normal after Jack's execution. High Minister Locke sat in his office, pleased with himself. Earth had sent angry messages, but nothing more. The humans were weak, just as he thought. Then an aide rushed in, his blue skin pale with fear. Minister, our sun, it's getting darker. Locke hurried to the window. The yellow sun of Vexard was indeed dimmer, as if something was blocking its light. What's happening? He demanded. The aide's voice shook. Our sensors show objects. Thousands of them. Massive ships arranging themselves around our sun. For the first time in his long life, High Minister Locke felt true fear. Earth had arrived. Panic spread across Vexar. In every city, blue-skinned aliens looked up at their darkening sky. Parents held their children close. The air grew cooler as less sunlight reached the planet. In the Vex High Council chamber, leaders argued loudly. How did they get here so fast? One shouted. Our reports said human ships need months to travel this far. High Minister Locke pounded his fist on the table. Send our fleet. All 300 warships. Now, outside Vexar's atmosphere, the Vex fleet gathered. Their ships were shaped like spears, with glowing blue engines. They were the pride of the Vex Confederacy, feared across 17 star systems. But as they approached the human fleet, the Vex captains fell silent in shock. The human ships were massive, each one bigger than a small moon. They'd formed a sphere around Vexar's sun, capturing its light. The largest human ship was in front, facing Vexar. It was 5 miles long with the word Justice written on its side in large letters. On the bridge of the asterisk Justice asterisk, Admiral Wilson stood with his hands behind his back. The main screen showed the approaching Vex fleet. They're sending their ships, sir, reported Captain Jones. Wilson nodded. Let them come close enough to see us properly. The Vex ships slowed as they approached. Even their largest warship looked tiny next to a single human dreadnought. Open a channel to the Vex homeworld, Wilson ordered. All frequencies, all languages. Throughout Vexar, on every screen and speaker, Admiral Wilson's face appeared. His voice was calm but cold. People of the Vex Confederacy, I am Admiral Tom Wilson of Earth. 7 days ago, you executed our ambassador, Captain Jack Reed, after a false trial based on lies. In the Vex Council chamber, Locke's 4 eyes widened in fear. 7 days? Impossible. On screens across the planet, Wilson continued, you believed Earth to be weak because we only recently reached the stars. You were wrong. The view changed to show the full human fleet minus 500,000 dreadnoughts surrounding the sun. Each of our ships carries weapons that could destroy your world in minutes. Your entire fleet could not stop even one of our dreadnoughts. In homes across Vexar, families huddled together, terrified. Some began to pack bags, though they had nowhere to run. You executed one of ours, Wilson said, his voice now hard as steel. Now you will understand what that means. High Minister Locke rushed to the communication center. We must respond. Tell them we'll negotiate. But before he could send any message, Wilson spoke again. To prove we are serious, watch carefully. One of the human dreadnoughts moved toward a small uninhabited moon orbiting Vexar. A beam of bright white light shot from the ship. Where the moon had been, there was now only floating rocks and dust. The Vex fleet immediately began to retreat. Some ships tried to jump to light speed, crashing into each other in their panic. Wilson's face returned to the screens. That moon was empty. We know this. We are not murderers, unlike you. But make no mistake, we could do the same to Vexor itself. In the council chamber, the Vex leaders fell to their knees. What do they want? One whispered. To destroy us all, another answered. But on the screen, Wilson leaned forward. I will arrive on your world in 1 hour. Have the following people ready to meet me. High Minister Locke, the judges who sentenced Jack Reed, and the true killer of your holy speaker. He paused, his eyes cold. If any are missing, we will consider it an act of war. You have 1 hour. As the transmission ended, darkness fell across Vexor. 500,000 dreadnoughts blocked their sun, and Earth waited for an answer. Exactly 1 hour later, Admiral Wilson's shuttle landed in the central plaza of Vexor's capital, the same place where Jack Reed had been executed. 4 human soldiers in powered armor walked out first, each carrying weapons that made the Vex guards step back in fear. Then Wilson himself appeared. He wore a simple black uniform with silver stars on the shoulders. His face showed no emotion as he looked at the spot where his friend had died. High Minister Locke waited with 5 other Vex officials. They bowed low as Wilson approached. Admiral, we welcome you to Vexor, Locke said, his voice shaking. We are ready to discuss terms. Wilson didn't respond at first. He walked to the metal post where Jack had been killed and placed his hand on it. You killed a good man here, he said quietly. A man of peace. Turning to face Locke, Wilson's eyes were like ice. Where are the others I asked for? Locke gestured to 3 Vex in formal robes. These are the judges who sentenced the human Reed. And the true killer of your holy speaker. Locke hesitated. We need more time to find. Wilson raised his hand, and one of his soldiers spoke into a communicator. Seconds later, the sky rumbled as one of the massive dreadnoughts moved closer to the planet. Wrong answer, Wilson said. We analyzed the video evidence from Jack's trial. Our computers found the real killer in under 5 minutes. He nodded to a soldier who projected a clear image in the air. It showed a Vex with distinctive markings on his face. This is Vex Security Minister Dax, Wilson said. He killed your holy speaker on orders from Minister Locke because the speaker had discovered the truth about your slave trade and was going to speak against it. The crowd of Vex who had gathered to watch gasped. Some began to shout angrily at Locke. Bring Minister Dax here now, Wilson demanded, or watch as we move our fleet closer. Locke's blue skin turned almost white with fear. He whispered to a guard, who ran off quickly. 10 minutes later, Security Minister Dax was brought to the plaza in chains. Now, Wilson said, here are our terms. He unfolded a paper and read clearly so all could hear. 1. All slaves in the Vex Confederacy will be freed immediately. All 17 worlds will end slavery forever. The crowd murmured. Many Vex nodded in agreement. 2. Those responsible for Jack Reed's death will face trial under combined galactic law, not just Vex law, but laws agreed upon by all species. Locke and the judges looked at the ground. 3. The Vex will pay to help rebuild the worlds of those you enslaved. You will give them technology, medicine, and food until they are strong again. Wilson folded the paper. 4. The Vex Confederacy will accept oversight by a new council made up of all species, including humans and those you enslaved. Locke stepped forward. And if we refuse? Wilson looked up at the sky, where hundreds of thousands of dreadnoughts were still visible. Then we will remove your ability to harm others, not by destroying you, but by taking your ships, your weapons, and your technology. One of the Vex judges spoke up. If we agree to your terms, will you leave our system? Most of our fleet will leave, Wilson answered, but some ships will stay to ensure you keep your promises. Locke looked at his fellow Vex, then at the human fleet above. He knew he had no choice. We accept your terms, he said finally. Wilson nodded. Good. The negotiation is over. He looked at Dax and Locke. Your trials begin tomorrow. As Wilson walked back to his shuttle, a young Vex child approached him. Will the sun come back? The child asked. Wilson's face softened. Yes, the darkness is ending now. Above them, the Dreadnoughts began to move, allowing sunlight to shine on Vexor once again. 1 year had passed since the day Earth's fleet surrounded Vexor. The planet looked different now. Where there had been only Vex walking the streets, now many species lived and worked together. The tall blue Vex, the green-skinned Lani, the rock-like Moors, and even a few humans moved peacefully through the capital city. High Minister Locke and Security Minister Dax were gone, locked away on a prison asteroid after their trial. The new Vex leader, Minister Trell, had once been a junior member who spoke out against slavery. She now led her people toward a better future. In the center of the main plaza, where the execution post once stood, a new statue reached toward the sky. It showed Captain Jack Reed with his hand extended in friendship. The words at the base read, "One human life, the catalyst that freed billions." Admiral Wilson stood before the statue, older now but still strong. Beside him was Minister Trell, her blue face marked with the gold lines of her high office. 1 year, Wilson said. Jack would be proud of what his sacrifice achieved. Trell nodded. My people are learning. Change is not easy, but it is right. They walked together toward the new Galactic Council building. Inside, representatives from 26 species, the 17 former Vex worlds, and 9 others, including Earth, sat around a large table. Each one equal, each one free. The former slaves are rebuilding well, reported Kala, a green-skinned Lani woman. With Vex technology and human protection, our people grow stronger every day. Above the planet, most of Earth's dreadnoughts had returned home. Only 50 remained, keeping watch over the new peace. They were no longer weapons of war, but guardians of freedom. What of the other alien powers? Asked a rock-skinned Moors. Those who still keep slaves, will they fight us? Wilson smiled slightly. 3 other empires have already ended slavery after seeing what happened here. They prefer peace with Earth to what happened to the Vex. On Earth itself, a matching statue of Jack Reed stood in the center of the United Earth Council chamber. Humans laid flowers at its base every day, remembering the ambassador who died bringing truth to light. In schools across 26 worlds, children learned the story of how one human's death changed the galaxy. They learned that strength without kindness is nothing. They learned that freedom is worth fighting for. Minister Trell turned to Wilson as the council meeting ended. There is a question my people still ask. Your fleet could have destroyed us. Why show mercy? Wilson looked out the window at the statue of Jack. Because that's what Jack would have wanted. He came here to build peace, not war. We finished what he started. As night fell on Vexor, lights illuminated the statue of Jack Reed. Across the galaxy, former slaves slept in freedom for the first time in generations. Earth had proven itself the most powerful force in known space, not through destruction, but through justice. In his quarters that night, Admiral Wilson took out an old photo of himself and Jack from their days serving together. We did it, old friend, he whispered. Your death meant something. It meant everything. Far away, the 500,000 dreadnoughts waited in their hidden base near Jupiter. Earth hoped never to use them again. But they remained ready, a silent promise that humans would always stand against tyranny, wherever it appeared among the stars. The greatest power in the galaxy was not the fleet that could destroy worlds, but the ideal they protected, that all beings deserve freedom, justice, and dignity. And it had all begun with one human life.